foxes. They are at home in all regions of the earth and able to adapt to many of mankind's changes. With cunning and prudence, they even follow us into our cities and live amongst us. They are shrouded in myths, and to some, they even appear shady, as they are not keen on showing us their hand. Hidden cameras now allow for an ever deeper insight into their mysterious world. In the countryside and in our cities. Berlin, one morning in late summer. All is well in the center of power. On the edge of the government district, a young fox attempts to catch a mouse. And doesn't remain unobserved. The adult fox has some breakfast for the youngster. Many textbooks tell us that 6-month-old foxes should be able to take care of themselves. But this grown-up not only wants to feed the youngster, but also lure him away from the parking lot as the city awakes. Minute by minute, traffic and the anxiety of the adult fox increases. Finally, he takes things into his own hands. Skillfully, he kills the mouse and hands it over to the amateur. The two foxes are members of the long-established government district plan. Several generations of the same pack have lived here for decades. The highest-ranking male has reared many a litter here. Weary after a night shift, the old fox rests, watching the healthy and playful cubs. Berlin's foxes are rabies and tapeworm free, rendering them harmless for their human neighbors. The animals strengthen their bond through regular body contact and fur care. As soon as it starts getting lighter in the government district, the old male withdraws. He'll spend the day sleeping in his home beneath office containers. Out in the open country, a harsher wind is blowing. Vixens often raise their offspring here alone and are absolutely exhausted by the autumn. One young fox, nevertheless, still hopes to be fed by his mother just one more time. But there are not as many rats and mice in the countryside as there are in the city. Food searches for a country vixen are thus more tiresome and the distances are greater. In the past few weeks, she collected many kilograms of food for her litter, which is now dispersed in all directions. Only this young fox is left and hopes to succeed by begging. But her patience is as exhausted as she is herself. She emphatically dispels the pubescent young animal from her territory. Perhaps he can find his own turf, and possibly even a partner. The fox's mating season begins in December. Vixens are only fertile for 2 to 3 days each year and make themselves noticed by barking. In the winter, females remain close to their dens. Even the government district's female clan chief will go for fast food in the winter, just so she doesn't have to move around too much. For male foxes, the opposite is the case. They are ready for mating and looking for a partner for almost 3 months. Unfortunately, randy foxes are not as prudent as they should be. In January alone, more than a quarter of all male fox traffic victims die on the streets. Male foxes risk their lives to propagate, and in doing so, they preserve the genetic diversity of the population. In addition to searching for a partner, the biggest challenge in the countryside lies in finding their own territory. Frozen over waters are like bridges and open paths to otherwise inaccessible land masses and islands, if one dares. But not all new shores are undiscovered, and many islands are already inhabited. If one gets too close, one has to expect some resistance. Unlike dogs, foxes can imitate a cat hump in an attempt to impress with their size. By signalizing inferiority, a fox can prevent further, possibly even lethal wounds. When the owner of a territory marks it so evidently, the lines are drawn. On the rare occasions when fox fights fox, size also seems to be a deciding factor. The loser has to keep looking elsewhere. Long walks can make you hungry. Luckily, this fox is just thirsty and glad that the seabirds have made this waterhole. Like her urban relative, the country vixen also moves around as little as possible in the winter. In contrast to the roving males, this also keeps her less exposed to the hunters' guns. For now, she just has to take care of herself and perhaps a few tiny embryos. Resting is the best preparation for the coming spring. Snowfall in Berlin is becoming quite a rarity. And snow that actually settles, even more so. Something very special for the city's inhabitants, both human and animal. It's best to enjoy the white splendor for as long as it lasts. At first, it seems surprising that even the fox likes to play in the snow. On the other hand, his warm dinners are roaming freely through the city. In the countryside, the opposite is the case. Here, rabbits are protected by lock and key. The smell of potential prey lures the hungry country fox to the stables. The rabbits appear to be trapped. At least they can't escape. The doors are secured, but a clever fox tests for alternative access. It was worth a try. When the nights grow ever shorter in spring, new life is beginning to stir in the government district. The highest-ranking vixen gave birth to her young after 50 days of gestation. Now, in these early days of April, nothing can keep the little pups under the containers. They've already changed their coat, and sharp milk teeth have been growing in their mouths for about a week now. It's early in the day, still hours away from the first office staff to arrive. Time enough for an alfresco breakfast. The vixen nurses her young for 2 to 3 months, even when they already eat solids. When the day shift arrives, the night shift begins to withdraw. After a thorough morning wash, of course. Depending on the nutritional situation and the weather, foxes give birth as early as February or as late as May. The country vixen delivered her litter less than 3 weeks ago. Her offspring still have their dark baby fur. Like many vixen in hunting grounds, she is alone and has to raise her young to become independent quickly. As soon as she can, she nurses her litter for the first time outside of the den. An important meal that should not be missed. A late arrival is punished with an empty stomach. The vixen has to continue her search for food and leaves the pups behind at the den. Neither in the countryside nor in Berlin's government district do foxes care much about cushions or other luxuries. It's by far more important to have several exits. The government district clan maintains a network of fox paths, which they use as supply routes. Mice, rats and rabbits are the main items on the menu. The squirrel is a traffic victim. Foxes are omnivores and won't turn down a bit of carrion. Females of lower rank, as well as several males, help the clan chief in caring for her litter, which often has various fathers. Only genetic testing could clarify which pups were fathered by whom. One thing is for sure, however, the kids don't even know what to do with all the food anymore. The rabbits also seem rather well fed. The older ones in their midst have already survived many a battle. Vigilance is the key to survival. Fortunately, the vixen's attempt at hunting was only half-hearted. Why get your paws dirty when there's a delivery service? This is the big city, after all. The feast is coming to an end. Time for the cleanup crew to get ready. While a few diners are still toying with the food, crime scene cleaners call to action. The crows clear away the evidence and remove all telltale traces. A single mother country vixen has no cleaners on hand. As soon as her young eat solids, the birth den becomes too unsafe. Food leftovers would attract enemies to the den in the open field. A few days ago, the clever vixen began digging a second shelter on a steep slope. The interior design still needs a little fine-tuning. Done. The moving day adventure can begin. Keeping up is paramount. Deadly dangers are lurking everywhere. Their second home is built entirely from sand. An exciting new way of life. But there's a renegade. He's on his way back to his old home. He doesn't feel like moving at all. But his mother makes no exceptions. Bright night with a full moon in May. Today, no one seems to want to go to sleep. The pups of the government district clan expand their home range a little more every day. All kinds of lights magically attract them. Even adult foxes conspicuously often place themselves in the right light. A closer look explains their strange fascination. Maybugs are everywhere. The city lights keep them awake. Eventually, they fall to the ground, exhausted. An easy target for the clan chief and her offspring's first prey. When the night watchman does his rounds, the foxes keep out of his way. Well, most of them. The curiosity with which fox cubs explore their world eventually grows into the proverbial cleverness of this species. where food falls from the sky, and the night watchman guards the offspring. Even the mother of a litter has time for a brief rest. Other places in Berlin are a lot busier in the morning. Life is already in full swing at the Innsbrucker Platz traffic hub. Here, a male fox is living the dream of a typical fox family lifestyle. Behind the gate lies fallow land that he can call his very own. He has a very close relationship with his female partner. It is very likely that he guarded her during her time of conception and can be pretty sure that he is the sole father of her offspring. Spared from hunting, like they are in cities, but also in nature reserves and several forests, monogamous partnerships among foxes are normality. And if this is the case, the fox couldn't care less whether life takes place at a railway station or anywhere else. Especially the male spends a lot of time with his pups and often extends playtime until long after sunrise. Physical contact also helps him to detect parasites in the fur. Ticks love the soft spot behind the ears. With a father like that, bloodsuckers don't stand a chance. At the same time, along the coast in the far north, a storm is brewing. The sea is rough, rolling and tumbling like a giant washing machine. This is excellent news for the coastal wildlife. Food they would otherwise have no access to can be found in the driftline. Insects galore in the piles of algae, food for the starlings. And after sunset, the foxes also make their way to the buffet on the beach. Fish rarely plays a part in a fox's diet. This easily available source of protein is a real blessing, especially for single mothers. The pups are still asleep, and the vixen has no time to wake them up. She buries the first fish to be able to leave immediately and collect more of which the beach has to offer for her young. The competition doesn't sleep. Tonight, there's enough for everyone. A feast like this is not a matter of course for fatherless litters. Prey is often scarce. Unlike in the big families in the cities, here even the youngest have to fight for sheer survival. But even life at the traffic hub has its challenges. A moment ago, one had an entire area of fallow upon which the female could nurse the offspring undisturbed. A moment ago, she could feel completely unnoticed. A moment ago, one could enjoy a leisurely sunrise and then deliver some breakfast at the beloved female's feet. Then suddenly, nothing is as it used to be. The gate that once kept the world locked out moves. Traffic that so far only took place outside of the area now plows its way into the Fox family home. City foxes are spared the dangers that hunting entails, but are never safe from man-made changes. Cities are constantly on the move, always loud, and in Berlin's case, an eternal construction site. Difficult to fathom why wild animals should feel good here. Scientists also want to know just how the animals survive in urban areas by keeping some animals under surveillance. But how do they manage to track down a mouse in a cacophony like this? Foxes can hear 20 times better than humans. With their freely rotating ears, they can locate noise sources precisely. But mice are able to see and hear too, and sometimes they manage to flee in time. Foxes don't necessarily feel at home in any given town, but they do in a lush park area like Ohlsdorf Cemetery in Hamburg. The mixture of seclusion and urban proximity make it the perfect habitat for the so-called commuter fox. It has its den in the countryside and sets off in the evening to also search for food in the city. The fox leaves its pups behind in the graveyard, protected by tombstones and guardian angels. Although family members of a fox clan roam the same territory, they never do it together. This is perhaps why these extremely social animals were presumed to be loners for a long time. Aside from foraging, the parents' lengthy nocturnal walks also involve leaving markings to advertise their presence in the territory. In doing so, they protect their offspring's homes from intruders. Hamburg, on the whole, is too tidy for most foxes to be considered attractive. Nonetheless, a trip to the harbour city is worthwhile, as it is also not entirely free of rats. Well-versed and mostly unnoticed, commuter foxes stroll through suburbs and tenements. Effortlessly, they cover anything between 5 and 10 kilometers each night. Cooking smells attract them to human homes, but if they are denied access to food, they simply continue their trek. In the mornings, commuters always return to their dens in the outskirts or in the cemetery. While the city foxes hand over the town to its human inhabitants and get some sleep, the countryside is still teeming with life. Terns use every single minute to supply their offspring with as much food as possible, just like the countryside vixen. The country pups have already moved to another home again. Their new den lies deep in the roots of an oak tree facing the harbour. The young are left to their own devices, while their mother has to continuously forage to feed so many hungry mouths. During playtime, fox pups establish a ranking order among themselves, strengthen their muscles, practice behavior and agility. But they always have to keep their ears trained so as not to miss the mother's return. After a long, tedious hunt, she has caught a water vole and is on her way home. Of course, it's risky to leave the young alone for so long, but it's unavoidable. With her summer den beneath the oak tree, the clever vixen made a wise choice. Dense vegetation provides enough cover for the pups to be able to play unseen. At the same time, the den is located close enough to humans for most predators to keep their distance. In order not to lure anyone there herself, the vixen has stopped feeding her young at the den. Instead, she places the food somewhere else and calls her offspring when the coast is clear. The older the cubs get, the further away from home the vixen lures them, until they begin to look for insects and small animals themselves, thus gaining more and more freedom. And freedom is also granted to the foxes back at the traffic hub in Berlin. The caravans have left the area. Not only that, they have left a few gifts behind. All in all, the fox couple were very fortunate. A few months later, excavators and trucks arrived. A building company is currently constructing a residential complex with more than 1,000 apartments on the site. But beforehand, the two foxes managed to prepare their cubs for life as an urban fox. Perhaps the couple is enjoying life in their own clan, somewhere else in Berlin today. Although at the moment, it's not easy to find a place to stay in Berlin. Even long-term housing contracts are being terminated for speculative purposes. And suddenly, your home is cleared. Good thing that his cubs have already moved out and stand on their own four paws. Soon, nothing will be left of their nursery. Major changes also await the countryside in the autumn. Migratory birds make their way down south, and young foxes will soon have to leave their mother's territories. His siblings have already left. Lately, the vixen no longer had the strength to care for them all. While she was raising them, the vixen never had enough time to establish a deeper relationship with her offspring. Now, she just wants her peace and rest. The message is clear. In the autumn months, young foxes living in the countryside lose up to 30% of their body weight. Catching mice is not as easy as it looks, so they feed mainly on earthworms, insects, and windfall. Young foxes also have some difficulty distinguishing friend and foe. Adult hares and deer have nothing to fear from foxes. This deer obviously wants to ensure that the young fox is aware of it. Real danger lurks elsewhere. Foxes have always been hunted, employing a plethora of methods. For example, hunters place so-called mouse castles within the range of their hides. Soft straw and a filled food tube are designed to encourage mice to nest, and with their scent, to lure foxes in front of the hunter's gun. Annually, more than 1 million foxes are killed in Germany and France, ostensibly for species protection and disease prevention. But Western Europe has been rabies-free for a long time, and the spread of fox tapeworm may even be exasperated by hunting. Elaborate investigations also revealed that biodiversity suffers primarily from industrial agriculture and that hunting can't actually regulate the fox population. Because where foxes are hunted and their family structures are destroyed, they crank up reproduction. Then, even lower-ranked vixens give birth to an above-average number of cubs in order to counteract the losses. A questionable vicious circle. For this reason, ever more experts demand the prohibition of fox hunting. Urban foxes are safe from hunters and live surprisingly species appropriate. Due to the large food supply, there are comparatively many foxes here. Nonetheless, encounters with them are still rare and special for most city dwellers. Unless, of course, they regularly share the night shift with the foxes. Many policemen and security guards know their own foxes personally and observe them with collegial sympathy. After all, foxes are the health police, responsible for rubbish and rodent infestation. Rats and mice are hemerophiles, meaning they follow us humans wherever we go. Roughly 8 million rats live in Berlin, and probably just as many mice. Far too many for their numbers to be significantly decreased by foxes. A virtual paradise. No wonder that urban foxes, who learn to figure out traffic rules, live far longer lives than their relatives in the countryside. excellent prospects for the young foxes of the government district. The city offers these intelligent all-rounders an appealing alternative in view of the continuously decreasing habitats in the countryside. Within cities, they are also spared the suffering caused by fox hunting, which is being increasingly criticized. Ever more people, including many foresters and even hunters, are beginning to question the sense and the necessity of fox hunting. Perhaps it's time for the country foxes to get a chance to once again live in intact family groups. Just like their urban relatives, they would then be able to maintain and care for stable territories to pass on to their young.